I used to work for a great manager, Pat Johnson, who would say, "Save time, don't put the bugs in." But unfortunately, bugs and debugging are a fact of life for all developers. In order to see the support that Visual Studio Code provides for debugging, let's close this folder. We'll go to File, Close Folder, and bring up Terminal. The first thing that we want to do is find out what directory we're in. And we are in my code directory, so I'm going to go up one directory. And then I'm going to make a new directory. And I'm going to call that Hello VSC. And now I will change directory to Hello VSC. Make sure I'm in the right place. Excellent. And now I want to open up Visual Studio Code right here, so I can say code space dot. And that will open up a new instance of Visual Studio Code right in the directory that I want. So I'll close my old instance, and I will ask this to take up the available space. All right, now that we're in our new editor in the correct folder, let's create a file, app.js. That's a typical JavaScript file. And one way to do that is to go up to File, New File, and we're going to hit Command S to save that file, and we'll call it app.js. Within that file, we're going to put var msg, that's for message, equals hello Visual Studio Code. And then we want to write that to the console, so we'll say console log, and we could put MSG inside the console log. Let's go over to the terminal to make sure that this is going to work. To do that, all we need to do is to say node app. This being a Node application, that is a JS application that Node can run. And sure enough, it writes to the console, hello Visual Studio Code. Now, if we're not happy with it, if it breaks in some way, then we want support from Visual Studio Code for debugging. Let's get the terminal out of the way and come over here where we see a bug with a slash through it, a good hint that this is the debugging window button. And we're going to head and click on that. And a number of windows open up. A variables window, a watch window, the call stack, breakpoints, and there are other windows that you can open as well. One thing that you can do is put a breakpoint. All you need to do is come up to the line and notice a red dot appears very faint. If I click on that red dot, it strengthens and indicates that there's a breakpoint there. And notice down here that my breakpoint is lit up. There are a number of other ways to add and manipulate breakpoints, but that's pretty straightforward. Now what I want to do is to run my application to the breakpoint. So I'm going to come up to this green arrow next to the word debug and click that, and the application will begin and run to my breakpoint. It's loading up its internal server for Node.js. I'm going to choose Node.js right here, and we're going to see a great many things happen. First of all, we move to the line where the breakpoint is. Secondly, in the variables, we see whatever variables are available in our code at this point, including the variable message, MSG, and its value, hello Visual Studio Code. We see the call stack of how we got to this line. We see the breakpoints, and down here in the console, we see output indicating that the debugger is attached. And if I step over console log.message, which I can do either by clicking on this button, or as you can see, by clicking F10, then the console is going to display hello Visual Studio Code. That's pretty straightforward and gives you an indication of the kinds of things that we can do. However, another thing that we can do is to add a watch window that allows us to watch a variable as it makes its changes. So let's go ahead and stop this with this little stop button. And we're going to change message. So we'll say MSG equals goodbye. And we'll log that as well. We'll put a breakpoint on line 4. Now notice the breakpoint window has 2 indications of where they are, and this is the line number, line 2 and line 4. And let's run that in the debugger. It's going to ask which environment I want. I'm going to use Node.js. It's going to start up the debugger and bring me to line 2. Now I have a number of options, one of which is to step over line 2, and we see Hello Visual Studio. If I go to my watch window and click on plus, I can say any expression that I wish to watch. I'm going to say MSG, and it tells me that is Hello Visual Studio Code. If once again I step over, now the message has changed to goodbye. It hasn't printed out to the console yet, but I can see in the watch window the change to that value. This is, of course, just the simplest introduction to debugging. There's a great deal of power here. And Visual Studio Code, while straightforward, small, lightweight, and fast, has a surprising number of features of a full integrated development environment.